Welcome to this edition, episode 1 of the Student Life Advice podcast. Once again, my name is Tré Norman.
I'm Elaine Rubin.
Exactly, and we want to get into why are we qualified, or the people who should be hosting this podcast. And we think we've got a lot to bring to the table, but we want to go over some of the basics so that you can get to know us and so that you feel comfortable taking information from us moving forward. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. So let's get into it. So Elaine, I have a question for you, for our listeners, so that they can see what are you bringing to this whole conversation on finance and education. What school did you go to?
So I went to Northeastern University in Boston, Mass, and I studied political science there. Oh. So it was my third major.
Third major?
Third major.
Well, why was that? What happened with the first two?
Oh, boy. So when I first went to college, I kind of had no idea what I wanted to do, as many 17-year-olds do. So over time, I just decided I would go in as a criminal justice major because I really wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
Then I did 1 year of that, and I was like, it's not for me. It's just not for me. So then I decided to be a business major, and that was a mistake for me.
Interesting. You're speaking to my people right now. Business major.
You know, I love math. I actually love math, but I don't like accounting. I don't like finance. I don't like conceptual math, if you will. So I actually ended up jumping to political science.
Okay.
And that's what I ended up loving.
Interesting.
And that's where I found my way. What about you?
Interesting. Okay. So for me, I went to University of Nevada, Las Vegas, better known as UNLV. And I went, like you, I didn't know what I was going to study when I went there. So technically, I was an undeclared major for, I want to say, my first semester there. But I always had an inkling that I would be a business student. Like, I just kind of felt that my uncle had a business, and I felt like I was being groomed to go in that direction. So after my first semester, I declared to be a business major, and then just took a bunch of different business classes, and then I fell in love with marketing because my teacher in my first class, first day of school, I kid you not, she like looks at the class and she's like, "You know why you're here?" I'm like, because I got to take this class. That's why I'm here.
And I got in here?
Well, yeah. I mean, like, well, it's a required course. That's why we're here. You know, she's like, well, marketing is the one department where it's all about bringing in that revenue. If we don't do our job, nobody has jobs. And I was like, I like that one.
So you wanted to take that on?
I said that sounds like that speaks to me. I said that sounds like my kind of thing.
And now you're here at Edvisors as...
And I do product marketing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, same thing. So shout out to my professor. I'm not gonna say her name, but she knows.
She guided you in the right direction.
Oh, she knows. Yeah. So I went to school for marketing, UNLV, and that was that. But yeah, that's what I do here now. I went to school for marketing, doing marketing. What do you do here?
So I'm the director of corporate communication here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But in all honesty, I was hired more as the subject matter expert in financial aid. So I have 13 years of experience working with higher education policy.
Oh my, that
time.
That sounds technical.
And oddly enough, that's exactly what I went to school for, is policy. So I did spend some time with the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Federal Student Aid. But the real reason I'm here and why I do what I do is because I fell into the trap of student loans, trying to figure out how to pay for college, restless nights, sleepless nights. The bill's in, they're ready to drop all my classes. I need to figure out how to pay for school. Whoa. And I had no idea what I was doing when I first went to college. And then I get hired as a regulatory analyst for a guarantor out in Boston. And all of a sudden, the first week, I'm learning like, oh, why didn't anybody ever tell me that? Like, why didn't they tell me about student loans and like some of the risks around them and what you should really be prepared for? And just because you can get one, it doesn't always mean that you should get one.
That's interesting. You know, I think one of the reasons why it's so important for us to have this podcast is because we're trying to bridge that gap between reality and what you know going into college.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with you. I mean, even myself, I didn't I didn't understand the weight of a student loan. And when I went to college, I ended up taking out one because shame on me. But I messed up my application and didn't put in the right information, very important information that identifies
Which
you.
application? FAFSA?
My FAFSA and my college application, they weren't in sync because I messed some numbers up, if you know what I mean. Yes.
You know, and they didn't flag you for that?
Switcheroo. So I kid you not, my first semester of college, because I did have a scholarship, and that scholarship did not matter because my numbers were switched on that very important number that you want to have when it's kind of, it secures you, if you know what I'm saying. So anyway, I messed up on that. So my first semester, I wasn't able to get my scholarship, so I had to take out a loan.
Or else they would drop your classes.
Yes, or else they would drop my classes.
Ask you to leave.
Yeah, so I had to take out a loan for my first semester, and then, like you said, you wish we had the advice. I got some advice that was like, hey man, keep the loan. It's good for building your credit. And knowing what I know now working for Edvisors, I'm like, you cost me some money. Okay, but anyway, yes, we want to help bridge that gap for individuals and be that resource.
I mean, how many times have we heard that story? How many times do we get questions of, I have these loans, I don't know where they came from, I don't know what to do with them, they've been sitting here, and they get so expensive.
What is interest? Why is it increasing?
You know what's interesting is, like, when we post questions like, what do you think interest is? Like, the answers we get.
Yeah.
So we definitely want to answer those questions and really make sure people know what they're committing to.
Yes, because the repercussions can be lengthy.
But then also there's so many, the other part of it too is not even the loan part. It's so confusing to find those scholarships, do the applications, get those grants in on time. Honestly, I remember seeing FAFSA deadlines and all those application deadlines, and I was like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, application would go in a month late, and then I'd be like, why didn't I get any more money? And they're like, well, you were a little late to the game.
Yes.
And I actually had outside scholarships. I had scholarships from high school. I had a whole bunch of other things, but it's pretty confusing when you try to put it all together and you've never done it before.
Yes.
And if your parents have never done it, my parents had never done it before, like, who do you ask? And the best advice I got, which thankfully is no longer really advice anymore, it's dying down, and thank goodness, because I got the advice of borrow the loan now. Everyone does it. You deal with it later. And later, it was terrible.
Yes. And the other question is like, well, what is later? When you say later, you need to put a time.
It's really when you graduate. Everyone does it. Everyone pays it off. But also at the same time, who's telling you this? Who was telling me this?
Oh,
it was people who were borrowing only maybe $3,000 to $5,000.
So they didn't even know.
I went to college in the bubble, so we had that problem.
Yeah.
So we weren't doing $3,000-$5,000. We were doing tens of thousands of dollars.
Man. Yeah.
Even with the scholarships, the grants, and all of it. So we definitely want to help break that down. So that's how I stumbled upon my career. That's how I felt, because I was like, you know what? Being first gen, coming from a multicultural background, knowing people need help, I needed to help people because that's the last thing I wanted them to deal with.
Yeah, it's just navigating college, and specifically the financial aid part. It can be pretty intimidating, I would say, without question. And like you said, even if you have scholarships and you have so many different, maybe grants, maybe a Pell Grant, whatever it may be, you still can end up maybe feeling like you have to take out a loan. And if you do find yourself in that situation, you need to know what that means.
You need to know what it means and what it's going to do.
Yes.
When you graduate. Because you think once you graduate, you're no longer going to live like a student. Oh, that's like the time where I felt like most people were living like students. They were living it up in college, and then afterwards, back with family.
Yes. For a while.
For a while,
perhaps. Yeah, good point. So you've gone up a little bit over what you do at Edvisors. Like I said, I'm in product marketing here, so a lot of what I do is trying to make make, content around what some of the things that we're talking about. So whether it's like, hey, writing an article on how to pay for medical school and helping individuals get the resources they need by cluing them in on different federal programs that exist and maybe different scholarships that exist as well. Just trying to consolidate that information, simplify it, and put it in layman's terms so that individuals can help get
your answers.
Yes, get their answers.
Because sometimes the questions seem so simple, but there's so much information out there that you really need to just give the answer.
Yes.
So that's what we really try to do.
Right.
You do a good job at it.
Oh, thanks. Same to you. You have just 13 years in the fight.
13 years.
That's a long time.
But it's even longer than that because I had to deal with it while I was in school. So we can add, and I went to a 5-year school. Planned 5-year school.
Oh, okay.
So my school was 5 years, so I would even say it's more like 18 years of experience with this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, as soon as you start making those decisions, you start realizing, oh, this is a little different than I thought. Mm-hmm. But here we are.
Oh my goodness. 18 years in the game. I can't help but think if we got an 18-year-old listening right now, she started when you were born. Okay?
Do we have to say that?
I don't know. It just crossed my mind. Like, you're 18. Elaine's been doing this for a long time. So she's
sure have.
You've got some credibility, I would say. Some ethos going on. Just established. But yeah, we here at Edvisors, we're trying to take all of that information out there, make it easy to access, break it down, because it is complex. It can get complicado, if you know what I mean.
Well, some people just get so overwhelmed they don't even know where to start.
Like, what? Hold up, my FAFSA. I have to do what?
And you know what? I think the biggest thing is there's a lot of information, there's a lot of noise. And, just like everything else these days, everyone has an opinion. Mm-hmm. Everyone has the best way you could do it, what you need to do. There's some keys that we'll definitely go over and touch on the whole time throughout this podcast, and we'll always give you those tidbits and advice. But at the end of the day, you really just have to organize yourself, come up with a plan, and execute, and focus on it.
Yeah. You got to be intentional.
Yes.
You do, and I believe that the individuals listening to the podcast, my hope for them is that they would be able to hear what we're bringing to the table, what we have to offer, and that they would take notes and then go back and look at their approach to financial aid. I mean, look at their approach to finances, whatever it may be, and see, like, hey, what's something that I took from that podcast that I can apply to my life that might bring about some positive results.
You know what I'm really excited about is, there's all this stuff of what you need to know, and there's all the basics we're talking about as well, but we're also going to be covering those current events. Yeah. And how they impact you.
Which is
there are so many things going on right now.
Yes.
Like, if you just, like, we were even talking about it before. So we'll definitely cover those, and we're actually going to have a news segment.
Oh, yes. The current events segment.
The current event and news segment. Oh, yes. That'll kind of go over what's happening now, because so much is happening with the new administration, Biden's administration, stuff going on in the loan world, in the school world, not to mention COVID-19.
Which is its own. When it comes to its education.
It's affected everyone's life in every single way you can think of.
Yes.
But going to college policies, huge.
Do you go? Do you not go? Do you wait to go?
Is it going to be online? How much is it going to cost? Where am I living?
Yes.
What do they do if they kick me out tomorrow?
Which did happen to some students. Yeah. They were on campus, and then COVID came, and they were like, go home.
Campus is closed.
Oh, my God.
And they left their stuff there.
Right.
And then I had to go get it.
Yeah, there's a lot.
So there's definitely a lot to talk about.
Yeah, so we want to tie those into what's happening, because it's relevant, and individuals need to know. You need to know if how does COVID impact your repayment strategy. You need to know, how does COVID impact what college am I even going to go to in the first place? And if I'm comparing the college of my dreams to the college of my means, what does that mean?
What does that mean? And if you're going far away, how are you going to get home? if something happens.
Seriously.
And it could.
Right.
There's no definites anymore.
Oh my gosh. So much.
There's so much.
So much.
I mean, the great thing is we work for Edvisors.
Mm-hmm.
We have a strong background in helping, over 20 years now,
Yes.
of helping people plan and pay for college. Not with me solely, but
Uh-huh.
but we have, as a company in general, been trying to help people plan and pay for college and deal with those student loans.
Yes.
I feel like we can't get away from that word loan.
I mean,
It's in everything.
It is, but the fact that it's such a prevalent thing, that's not only reason to talk about it, but because we interact with individuals who are taking out loans currently, have taken out loans years ago and are still paying those off, and individuals who are on the brink of paying off their loans now, hey, there are lots of stories that we can
Well, college
glean
doesn't
from.
end if you have a student loan, as far as paying for it.
I never thought about it like that. If
You're still paying for college after you leave college if you have a student loan.
okay.
But here's the thing. It's an investment in your future. You just have to be smart about it. So we're going to try to go over some of those. We have some great experts that will be coming in. A little bit of a teaser.
I'm excited to see what they have to say.
They'll let everyone know about ways to be responsible when borrowing, because it is an investment. At the end of the day, either you're putting your savings in there, your earned money, your parents' money, if you have that, and then loans.
Yeah. I'm on board. I'm on board. And we're going to be talking about other things besides loans too. So don't, if you think, oh, well, loans don't apply to me. Well, this is the latest information on finance and education. So we're hitting it all.
Yeah, we've got scholarships in there.
Scholarships. We're going to be talking about how do you budget as a college student.
Financial literacy.
Okay, you've graduated. You got your degree. Well, what do you do now? If you've got a loan, how do you account for that in your everyday living?
How do you put that budget together?
Yes.
Your monthly budget is not just food and shelter.
No. If you think it is, you done messed up.
Well, also, we'll talk about budgeting in college, too.
Yes, which is important. I didn't do that.
I actually did that a little bit because I had to earn money while I was in school. So I went to Northeastern. So Northeastern has a co-op program. Do you know about co-ops? So you class for 6 months, work for 6 months. And I always made it a point, especially as soon as my co-op started, to stay part-time.
Yeah.
To earn money. Because I needed money.
Yeah.
But I had to budget my money that way because I was relying on every type of aid imaginable. But then how do you live?
Yeah. I'm with you.
It's still college. Like, you still want to do things. You want to try new things. Like, it's the only time in your life, really, where you're kind of in that transition phase to being out of the school, like finishing up school and entering when you have a job. Mm-hmm. And I'd always had a job, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm totally on board with you. Like I mentioned, I told you I had a scholarship, but I needed to take out a loan because my numbers, my secured number wasn't matching between my FAFSA and my college application. So eventually we got that sorted out. Remember, I didn't pay off the loan because of some advice that I had received.
Deal with it later.
I was told to deal with it later. I should have went to Edvisors. Edvisors was giving me the right advice on that.
Because it was there when you were in school.
Yes, and I should have paid it off. But anyway, I postponed that. Ended up paying some interest and whatnot. But even when I was in college and once I was getting my scholarships and having things paid for, I still wasn't doing what I was supposed to do with my money. I was going to class and classmates like, hey, let's go get a burger or whatever.
But you know what's interesting to me now is you've learned so much from that experience, because I have like a list of Treyisms.
Oh, you got Treyisms.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, snap.
Remember the other day when you were worried about the water here? And I was like, just go grab a bottle of water, because we just moved buildings, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And we usually have some filtered water, and it just wasn't quite working. So I go to you, just go buy a bottle of water. There's a place you can grab one down the street just for today. Like, bring in some tomorrow.
Oh, I do remember.
And what did you say to me?
I said,
I come here to earn money, not spend it.
Yep, I want that on the t-shirt. If whoever's listening to this, if you want to make my year and get me a t-shirt that says,
why am I here? To earn it, not spend it.
I don't come to work to spend money. I come to work to make money. If I got that randomly, I would be I'd be
and
ecstatic.
you're devoted to that. Because for me, if I need a bottle of water for one day, I usually, bring in my own. But if I need it for one day, I would go. But you were stuck to your guns with that one.
I mean, you to me, I got to, because I know when I was in college, I wasn't thinking like that. If I had a budget when I was in college, I'm pretty sure I'd look back on my college age self right now, and I'd just, in some kind of way, I'd pinch him. I'd just pinch him. Like, what were you doing? Why did you eat out so much? Because oh man, yep.
Because it seems fun.
It does.
But you know what's not fun?
No.
Debt.
It's not, seriously. So, yeah.
You live and you learn sometimes, but I think our kind of goal here is to kind of explain the mistakes we know we made. Mm-hmm. And, even after college, I had a huge drive to not go back to my parents' house. Love my parents to death, but I had just loved living in the city, living in downtown Boston, right near Fenway Park.
Oh.
Loved it.
Baseball.
Totally loved it, and I did not want to go back. So, we'll also talk about strategies about what do you do if you do have debt and you want to make it work.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's sacrificing some of the things you want for some of the things you have to do, but totally thankful for all of this and everything we're doing.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see the conversations we get to have as we continue with the podcast, and also the stories. I mean, folks might be like, hey, y'all said something that struck a chord with me, and now I'm doing this and I'm doing that. So I'm looking forward to the outcomes.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be exciting.
And there's one key thing in this podcast is we have Ask the Edvisor on Edvisors.com.
Yes.
And you know that I do lives on our social media sites, on Facebook, on YouTube, which we'll post and make sure you guys know about if we have one coming up.
Right.
Where I take questions live. But for this podcast, we're going to be taking questions that come into that Ask the Edvisor and talking about them here.
Yeah, that's going to be exciting. We want this to be an interactive experience.
As much as possible.
Exactly. So if you have questions, let them know. Drop them in the comments. Do whatever you need to do.
AskTheAdvisor.com.
And we'll get to them.
Edvisors.com/Ask the Edvisor.
Yes. So we want to make sure that we're answering those questions, because who knows, somebody might ask a question that ends up being a whole episode. If I'm just being honest, it may be one of those.
It could be
hard to impact.
Because what the biggest hurdle is? Trying to figure out which question to ask. And so I'll get questions into Ask the Edvisors. I love every question I get, and it usually comes from an area of panic. Of I'm stuck, I don't know what to do. It goes on for a bit, and usually I think that's one of my strengths is I can usually break down what the question is, and we can really get to the bottom of it.
Yes.
And sometimes the questions result in questions you need to ask, but sometimes that's fine.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you have to go to financial aid and say, all right, I figured out what I need to ask.
Mm-hmm.
This is the question.
That's a good point.
Let's go through it. But we can spend whole episodes on that and going through those.
Yeah, I think if individuals have questions and they're looking for answers and we have access to it and we can help them connect the dots, let's do it. Let's draw the picture for them,
yes.
If you know what I mean.
Let's get those questions answered.
Are you tired of applying to scholarships and having to write up essays all the time? With scholarship points, you can enter scholarships without the hassle of having to write a single essay.
You heard it.
Simply earn points by completing offers on the site or entering in bonus codes. Use those points to enter into any scholarship of your choice. Each month we give away 3 separate $1,000 scholarships, and every 3 months or every quarter, one $10,000 scholarship. Use the code EDVICE for 100 additional points on scholarshippoints.com after you sign up. And if you're already a member, just go to the bonus codes page and put it in. That's EDVICE, EDVICE. Once again, EDVICE, EDVICE. Get your 100 points today. It's time for our news segment of the day. Elaine, take it away.
All right, so I think today we should cover the impact of COVID-19 policies.
Yeah, let's do it.
The ones schools have and how it could impact a student's decision to go there and how comfortable they feel on campus. So we actually put out a survey. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you knew that. I think you did.
Oh, you know I did. But let's let them know.
So we went on scholarshippoints.com, our scholarship sweepstakes site that we have, and we put out a survey, and we had like 1,600 responses.
Okay.
1,689 people responded to our survey about the impact of those COVID-19 policies. And what we actually found? 2/3 of respondents said that a COVID-19 policy could impact the decision they have about attending a particular school.
That's a good amount of people when you think about the percentage. I mean, 2 out of 3 who took it.
But what was interesting about it? It wasn't like a straight, it wasn't like you were just sitting here, everyone had the same opinion. Everyone's had different opinions on the impact.
Okay.
So, what are we talking about when we're talking about COVID-19 policy? We're talking about vaccination requirements, mask mandates.
Yes.
For students, vaccinated, unvaccinated, faculty, anyone on campus, vaccinated, unvaccinated. Dorms. What do you do in the dorm?
Yeah, because everybody's got to touch those handles to go
Everyone's got to use the restroom as well if you're living there.
Elevators. I mean, even the cafeteria.
And then what if your roommate doesn't have the same types of views as you?
I didn't think about that one.
I mean, it's kind of close quarters in there. I mean, I remember I had an economy triple freshman year, which is essentially a double room that they're like, let's just throw someone else in there. Super comfortable, let me tell you.
All right, what else did we find out?
So, we kind of went through, and I kind of have some of these numbers here. And we asked a whole list of things, of specific policies that would have you reconsider or change your mind about enrollment. So we had 42% of respondents saying that they would change their mind if the school required a COVID-19 vaccine.
Whoa.
39% said they would change. They'd have an issue with requiring to prove that you're fully vaccinated.
So vaccine cards.
So showing vaccine cards and all that. And then some people 26% had a problem with schools that didn't ask for proof.
Oh, so we got some mix.
Yeah, so they kind of contradict each other.
Yeah.
Which kind of feels like what is going on right now, right? And let's see what else we asked. We asked a mask requirement for unvaccinated students and faculty. 26 respondents said that would affect their decision to go enroll in a specific school. Mask requirement regardless of vaccination status, 33%. No mask wearing requirement was 32%. So people were concerned that if they went to a school, there wouldn't be no mandate.
Right.
Which is kind of an interesting concept.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got some diverse responses here. Some people saying, "Hey, I think twice if we didn't have to wear masks, and I think twice if we did." It's all over the place.
It kind of goes right back and forth. It's like we have a group of students saying one thing, and another group of students saying the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a challenge to go to school right now. We got 2 more of these. COVID-19 testing requirements. 30% of students said that policies based on that would change their mind in enrollment. And then the quarantine policy for students who test positive. 40% said they might reconsider depending on what those policies are. I mean, have you heard about some of those quarantine stories that came out?
I heard a few about some local colleges, and I've heard, it's interesting.
It's definitely interesting. Imagine being somewhere, especially if you're not close to home, and then you have to quarantine in college, and you're kind of just isolated.
Yeah, that's weird.
And it's not like you're at a location necessarily. I think some places use hotels, empty dorms. How would you go about ordering stuff if you need something?
Yeah, I personally don't know what I would do. These just sound like difficult waters to navigate. I mean, it's complicated. Like you said, we've got diverse opinions all over the place. And yeah, if you're a student going to college and you're uncomfortable with someone maybe getting COVID and perhaps being your roommate, or the vice versa, you're totally fine, but your roommate's not.
I mean, when it comes down to it, when we're talking about going to school right now during COVID, if you're fearful, one thing we've seen a lot, not necessarily regarding the survey or anything, it's just the fact that students are making different decisions. They've never been to school, they're graduating seniors.
Yeah.
And they're looking to be freshmen. They are looking at things like gap years, doing community college, staying close to home just in case something happens, not going somewhere where they have to live on campus.
That's a good point.
There's a whole list of ways that you'd have to kind of consider your decision. And also what happens, the other big thing that came across last year was refund policies.
Woo!
So there's like two sides of that one always. It's like your dorm, if you're living on campus and you can't live there anymore, should you get your money back?
I mean, hey.
You signed a contract.
Yeah.
And then also schools that went from being in-person learning that moved online.
Yeah.
That's a different experience.
Completely. Especially, I also think that it varies depending on your major and the type of instruction that you would need. Hey, you're working in a lab all the time, and then all of a sudden all of your labs move to online. That could be a huge difference. Especially when your work is directly tied to face-to-face interaction with a patient, customer, whatever it may be. These interesting times to navigate.
I know. And then the other side of COVID-19 is those who were graduating from college with those student loans. It's a whole different world out there. Like trying to find a job may not be as easy, especially when we were shut down.
Yeah.
And you couldn't really move about. I mean, things are getting back to the new normal. I mean, I don't think normal will ever be the same.
I don't know what normal means.
I don't know what it means anymore. It's a different new perspective. It's all like determining your own normal and your own comfort levels. But yeah, so kind of stuff we're seeing now and stuff to keep in mind is, if you're looking to go to school, definitely look at all the policies and really take the time. I know we say this. I know I say it all the time. Anytime you pick a school, review your refund policy, review how they handle different things that are required of you. And now you have to take that extra step forward to make sure you're accommodating for COVID-19. It hasn't gone away.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at the beginning of this, I don't know, I was in the boat where I thought like eventually it would kind of go away, and here we are.
Still here, still relevant.
Here we are.
Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting thing that's been in the news quite a bit of how schools are handling COVID-19, what's going to happen with that. When we talk about money, look at that refund policy.
Yeah.
If you're living on campus, make sure you understand what happens if your dorm shuts down. Are you going to get your money back? Schools before, I think for the most part, I mean, there was a few schools that got sued. Several, a lot of lawsuits that came through. But now schools know what to look out for, so they're creating those policies, and it's up to you to read them and understand them.
They're doctoring up that language, protecting themselves. Yeah,
protecting themselves, but then some of them, have very favorable refund policies explaining it. But, a lot of people have also argued that even if you get the education that year or that term or whatever segment of time, it doesn't matter if it's physical, in person,
versus
or online.
Yeah.
And there's a huge argument back and forth of it's not the same cost. But just read those policies and make sure that you understand them before you make a decision.
Yeah, I mean that could be the difference between you going to one college and maybe going to another.
It definitely could. And also even just staying close to home, doing gap years, or going to community college for a little bit. Something more local that you can control a little bit more.
No, I totally agree. The ramifications are kind of endless here. We don't know what's going to happen because
we didn't know before.
We didn't know before, and it just continues to be this endless hamster wheel of I don't know when it's gonna
change. Be different.
Yeah. So we just have to adjust and
I will say, if you're moving into campus. Maybe don't spend all that money on decor, because if you do have to leave, less is more.
Yes.
Less is more. Getting in I mean, it's already hard enough with those bins, and imagine if you have to do it. I mean, I think people last time that campuses shut down and their stuff was in the dorm, they could come pick it up, but it was an allotted time that they could come for a very certain small window of time to get all their belongings. Yeah. Doesn't really give you that time for careful packing.
No. You might leave something.
Yeah.
Might leave something valuable too.
Yes. So you definitely want to be careful with all of that, but that's Edvisors in the news.
Oh my goodness.
Well, that was our episode 1, I think.
Yes.
It went pretty well, I think. I think the bottom line here is what our goal is. I know we've said it a million times. I feel like we've said it a million times.
Well, we got to let them know so that they can't forget.
I know, so you remember it. Is we really want to help you with understanding what goes into to finance and education for everything about that college student, going to college, graduating, dealing with your student loans. So we are definitely going to cover repayment of student loans, but we're going to cover heavily like stuff leading up to repayment before you get there to try to avoid any mistakes and maybe even trying to fix some of them along the way if you can. We're going to have some great guests. A little bit of a teaser. I know we mentioned it before, but we're going to have some industry experts come in here and explain different creative ways to pay for college, some of the things that they've experienced in their careers and also as a student paying for college. And then we're always going to be covering stuff in the news because I think at this point, all that stuff is so impactful to everyday decision making. It's everywhere.
It's impactful, and if you're a student, or like you mentioned before, if you're someone who's still paying for college well after college, all of this is pertinent and you need to know what's going on so that maybe you can take advantage of some of the policies that are in play right now, and maybe you can also protect yourself from some of the policies that may not be in your favor.
And also, our whole thing is to share that information as we hear it and give it to you so you know what to do in the next steps. We also have a lot of this information and a lot of great timely articles and information on all our social media platforms.
Absolutely.
Like we have Edvisor's Facebook, Edvisor's Twitter, Edvisor's
Instagram. So much.
Edvisor's TikTok.
LinkedIn too.
But
we share lots of helpful
LinkedIn.
articles on LinkedIn.
And TikTok, we share articles and advice. You will not catch us dancing on TikTok.
I don't know. I might
My
bust
former days. Maybe as a ballerina, but no longer.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'll break something.
Oh, goodness. But yeah, we've got tons of topics coming. Like Elaine said, from experts. We're going to be talking about how you save for college, how you pay for college while you're in college, after college, until you're all the way done. And then also beyond that, just good financial tips that are healthy to have before college, after college, as you build your,
maybe
your
a few
career.
Trey-isms.
Oh, maybe a few. I think I might need to get that shirt for myself, and I'm going to wear it during one of these episodes.
I think you should do that.
I'm going to get a long sleeve.
I think there's a way we can make that happen.
I think we should. Why not?
To talk.
I don't come to work to spend money. I come to work to make money. I want to wear that around the office just to see what people think. People look at me like, are you taking a shot at me? No, I'm taking a shot at my budget. I don't care how you feel. I care about my wallet.
The greatest thing about it is, we both are in different life stages.
Yes.
So we've all had a lot of different experiences of having to deal with coming out of college, starting our careers, dealing with student loans, repayment, all that stuff, and then life.
Yeah.
Like looking at cars, looking at homes, moving cross country.
Yeah.
Everything.
And we can touch on that in the podcast, and I can't wait to do that as well, because it all, it's like your student loan, that might be the first big loan, but then there's you got other things as well.
I have federal and private.
Oh. You got the FP. You got the federal and the private.
And state.
Oh, I didn't know. Oh, yeah.
No interest loan. It was a no interest loan, but it was still a state loan, separate from all of it.
Oh, my goodness.
So there's a lot of little hidden things in our experiences alone, which will be great.
That's awesome. I'm sure someone listens like, she got a state loan too? I got one of those. Can you help me? Can you help me figure that one out? Yes, she can. Elaine's got your back. All right. But yeah, so we're looking forward to future episodes, future content. So keep it locked with us. Stay tuned, and we'll keep you apprised on the latest and greatest when it comes to information related to finance and education. Until next time.
Best advice.
Oh yeah.